been teaching a class on scientific skepticism and pseudoscience for about 15 years. It used to be a special topics course. I managed to get it permanently on the books last year. It's a board level course with about 20 students or so. In this class, students do a lot of interesting things. I'll give you a couple examples. We partnered with the Center for Inquiry Investigations group, and they host the Paranormal Challenge, which offers $500,000 to anyone that can show paranormal abilities under carefully controlled conditions. My students work with some of the applicants, and they write the protocols for the actual tests. And then if the applicant agrees, we actually get to witness the test, and we usually do it over Zoom. As well, we go on a ghost hunt every year to a supposedly haunted location in Edmonton, which is where I'm from. This is a photo from last semester. That's in the Freemasons Hall. Very scary. The reason we do that is to debunk the tools of the ghost hunters and give some fairly rational explanations for seemingly paranormal events. And the students, of course, present on all forms of pseudoscience. Now, I've been interested for a while in ways to engage the community with this. I think the students are doing a lot of great things. I think the presentations are outstanding. It would be great if people in the public could hear about it, but I couldn't quite find the right hook, the right way to engage the public while still maintaining a solid course and having good pedagogical value in doing that. Fortunately, I met Kat McLeod and Adrian Hill. I've invited them to give some guest lectures in my class. They've come to the ghost hunt. You may be familiar with them. They are on the podcast, The Skeptic Zone. They are known as the Loons from Canada. And they also started one of the first SkeptiCamps in Edmonton and asked me to be involved. Now, before I go on, just a quick aside, I talked to Kat recently, and I told her I'd be here, and she said that she is trying to start a critical thinking awareness day to get it on the books in Alberta, and she recommends that you all try to do the same in your provinces or states. I've got a QR code at the end where you can go check it out if you decide you want to do that and raise some awareness for Critical Thinking Awareness Day. Okay, so they started the first SkeptiCamp. If you're not familiar with SkeptiCamp, this is from the Skeptical Inquirer website. I think it's a nice summary. They are free, community-driven conferences that celebrate scientific skepticism and critical thinking. So the first SkeptiCamp we held was on a Sunday afternoon. I invited 3 former students to give presentations, actually 2 current, 1 former student. And we had some outstanding keynote speakers as well, who you'll be hearing from later. So thank you again, Susan, for coming. And it went great. We had about 25 people there, so a nice start. And I started to wonder, what if I made this a class assignment? What if students had to present at SkeptiCamp? And I wanted to think through, what is the value for the students here? So my course focuses a lot on science communication. And I thought this would be a great way to hone those science communication skills, because you're not just presenting to the class and to the instructor, you're actually presenting to the public. On top of that, it promotes a mastery of the material. We've talked about AI today. And I tell the students, there are ways you can use AI to help. But if you use AI and just go read it, it's a room of skeptics. They are going to tear you apart. And you can see the class kind of go white all at the same time as the blood drains from their face. But it really prepares them. They have to know what they're talking about because they're getting questions from the public. And of course, we get to engage the public. Our university puts a strong emphasis on community engagement, which I think is great. I think it's important that the public knows what we're doing in the university. As well, the students get to show off a bit. The presentations, like I say, for the most part, have been excellent throughout the years, so they can invite friends and family to this as well. And I know a lot of our students aren't going to be pursuing a career necessarily in science communication, but this activity has a lot of transferable professional skills. If you have a look here, these are the top 10 skills that employers are looking for. This is from the World Economic Forum, and this activity actually hits a lot of them. So there's aspects of analytical thinking, of course, critical thinking, creativity, technology use. There's a lot here. And in fact, I tell students, put this on your CV. This you have presented at a conference. So there's a lot going on here. It's been great. We've done it 3 times. And I'm going to go over how to set it up if you want to try this, and of course I'll be around later to chat about it, and then I'll give you a few tips at the end. The best place to start would be on Susan's website here, which is About Time, and again, I've got a QR code at the end. It's got links to the websites. There's an excellent how-to guide to start from scratch. And I was fortunate in the sense that Kat McLeod and Adrian Hill were already well along in setting this up, so I was able to partner with them. And you might be able to do the same. So you can look to see if there's local SkeptiCamps that are already running and then partner with them. I've got a link as well on the QR, with the QR code. That's from the Skeptical Inquirer page, and they've got a list of events that are going on with SkeptiCamp, so you can check that out as well. If you can't partner, don't worry, there's actually not a benefit, but one of the nice things about running it on your own is that you're a little bit more flexible in the scheduling too, right? So don't be put off if you can't find a local SkeptiCamp to partner with. Then you need to think about scheduling. I've been fairly fortunate in that my classes are usually late in the afternoon. So here's our last SkeptiCamp. From 3:30 to 5, I had students present, then we had an hour-long break. I managed to get some funding for some pizza. And then from 6 to 7:30, we had what we call our keynote. So I spoke, and we brought in some other faculty members to speak as well. That worked pretty good. I thought it was great that we held it on Friday the 13th. And my colleague said, that's a bad day because that's the last Friday before spring break for us. And I said, you're wrong, it's Friday the 13th, this will be great. They were correct. Nonetheless, we still did have some people there, but that was perhaps stopping. And then in terms of arranging keynotes, I usually rely on my colleagues, but we also can bring people in over Zoom, right? So I think the people here are a great resource. We've had Kenny Biddle come in. Susan was nice enough to fly in and actually present in person. But I think these Zoom talks are great as well. So there's a lot of resources out there that we can use, and the students love to hear other people other than their instructor, right? So that goes really well. Another tip too, I would not allow the students to choose their own topics. I do this in the middle of term, so you have to be aware of where they're at. So if the students wanted to, say, tackle vaccine hesitancy, at that point in the term, they just don't have the expertise because it is a public audience. They might get some very challenging questions. So the topics I choose are a little bit lighter. They're still promoting that good scientific thinking, but they're also setting the students up for success. So it's hard to say. A couple examples of what we use, myth of left brain, right brain, magnet therapy, TikTok pseudoscience, astrology's Gen Z comeback. And the one that was probably the most contentious was trigger warnings, but even then, that went fine. Trigger warning, they don't work. What to do next? I promoted it on campus. I contacted our department, had emails sent out, I had it sent out campus-wide. Kat and Adrian set up a social media page, but very quick and easy to do, and then get the students to promote it. The students are very tech savvy, of course. They're using social media a lot, and they can promote it as well. Now, I have this in the middle of the semester, and I like to build on it. So for their final assignment, they've done the SkeptiCamp in the middle. The final assignment, they present again to the public. This is the first year I've tried this. This one's a fundraiser. Open to the public and tickets are $20. Now, what the money goes to is to support future courses dealing with pseudoscience. With some of my courses, I'll bring in junior high and high school students, so we pay for buses and lunch and so on. And next spring, I'm launching a course where students will go to Brazil and work with Nat and the IQC, and it's a course on science policy and misinformation. So some of the money raised from this fundraiser will go to support that as well. We weren't sure if this was going to work. We weren't sure if it was too expensive, but we had capacity for 100. We hosted it at a local bar, which is also a restaurant, so kids can come in as well. And we had about 90, 95 people there. So it filled up. We were at capacity, or very, very close to capacity. This went great. And again, it's another opportunity for students to show off what they're doing and doing it in a meaningful way. So a couple tips if you want to tackle this. We've done this a few times. The first time we did it outside of that initial run where we just had the 3 students, but the first time I did it as part of a class, I had students present in partners. That wasn't perfect. Some partners were sick, and it just, logistically, it didn't work great. The last time I did it, I had students present in groups. And I said, this is just like the real world. If you're in a work environment and you're working in a team, not all of you would present. Play to your strengths. So if some of you want to do more of the research, others of you want to present, great. But just like in the real world, if somebody's sick, you are still on. So I do it in groups of 3 or 4. They're all allowed to speak if they want, or they could nominate one person, but that day that they're presenting, someone is presenting, all right? I also had students hand in their presentations a week in advance along with their speaker's notes. That was okay, but then what happened is the day of the presentation, some students had their phone out and then they just read it with their head down the whole time. That's not what we're after. So what I did with the Brew and Learn, the fundraiser we had, is they actually had to present in class first, a week before, and then I could give them a lot of feedback. And then when they did the fundraising presentation, what they had to do after was a reflection. What went well, what didn't, what would you change? And that's what I'm going to do with the next SkeptiCamp as well. It also takes a little bit of the pressure off the students because there's a lot of tension, right? You're in front of 100 people or however many it might be. At least if you do it in class first, you have that run through, you get the feedback, and then it'll go a little bit smoother. As well, some students occasionally can get a bit off the mark. I had some students basically saying that naturopathic medicine can work for some things. So we talked, and we fixed that. So the presentation got better, as did their grade. It's pretty grim at first. I've been focusing this around class time, and then I had the keynotes in the evening, and again, I've been lucky that my classes have been later in the afternoon. But when we did the fundraiser, we just did it at night, so it started at 6, and the attendance was fantastic. The problem, of course, in doing this in the afternoon is a lot of parents can't make it, they're obviously at work. So I'm very seriously toying with moving SkeptiCamp to the evening as well, or what I might do is try moving it to the weekend. When we did the fundraiser, it was at the end of term, so it was a fairly easy sell to do it outside of class time. I told them, this is your final exam. Final exams are scheduled outside of class time. This is what your final exam is. I think in the middle of the term it might be a harder sell, but I'm going to give that a shot next semester. So that's what we've done. It's gone great. I highly recommend it. If you scan the QR code, I've got a lot of resources there. I've got the websites I've talked about, as well as a copy of the assignment, my rubric, and just a few other tips there as well. I will be around for the next couple days, so if everybody's thinking about trying this, feel free to talk to me, and Susan is a fantastic resource for this as well. So please talk to Susan about SkeptiCamp, and thank you very much.
Professor Rodney Schmaltz, and he also hosted the last LiliCon. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Next.